My name is Erika Eriksson. I am a consultant focusing on SNOMED CT and informatics. At the moment, I work for an organization called the Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Regions, which is coordinating the work of the Swedish healthcare regions. And I'm involved in that. I will be presenting with my colleague from another organization.
Hi everyone, I'm Adolf Krag. I represent the National Board of Health and Welfare in Sweden, which is the host of the NRC, but we will go through that. And despite the sexy title, what we're going to talk about today is starting off letting you know sort of the structure of the country, because that very much puts the needs of why we need to have these collaborations set. The problems we had, the efforts we've put down in the model that we sort of designed to get through those challenges. And then we've been doing that for quite some time now, so we'll also have a look back to see how have we progressed throughout those years. All right.
Thank you. Let's see the picture. Sorry, still too short. We'll start by sort of setting the context a bit, because we always have to do this when we talk about Swedish healthcare, because it's a decentralized system, which means that the responsibility is shared between different organizations or different levels. On the national level, there is actually no provision of healthcare, but there's legislation, training. Well, you do provide a SNOMED CT National Release Center, which we're really happy about, of course, but responsibility is shared. So the main provider of healthcare is with the healthcare regions. There are 21 regions. They all have their own rights to decide, because they have their own taxation rights, so their own financing, some help from the government, but mainly on a regional level. The municipalities are even more. There are 290 of them. So it takes some coordinating to make everybody works in the same direction, really. The municipalities also are responsible for some healthcare, mainly because of the care of the elderly, homes for elderly, etc. So we'll be talking mainly about what the regions are doing when it comes to health informatics and health data standardization today. So yeah, we've added a picture just to show that it's not just the responsibility of healthcare that is divided between 21 regions, but also the responsibility for providing health IT is also divided between regions. So this is just a picture to show that the core EHR system, there are different ones in Sweden. At the moment, 5-ish, not easy to draw the lines always. But obviously, this creates a big need for collaboration when it comes to standardization, because otherwise all the information, all the health data will be locked into one or a few regions rather than being on a national level. So we like to show this picture just to show that this is the situation we're dealing with when it comes to standardization of health IT and health data. So it's a bit of a challenge, to say the least.
All right. So a little bit on the role that we have at the National Board of Health. So we have the little bubbles up there. So we have the regions and the municipalities, but we also have quite a number of national authorities. Not all of those, of course, regulating healthcare, but quite a large number of them. We have multiple agencies or national boards with different responsibilities. And they all answer up to the Ministry of Health and Welfare, who is assigning us tasks or instructions of how to coordinate or deliver the tasks of the agency. And under that agency, which is the National Board of Health and Welfare, in this case, we have the National Release Center. So there's quite a number of steps with regards to how we organize ourselves, of how sort of the decisions of what to do and where to go are being arranged. And at the National Board of Health and Welfare, we like this picture. Some of you have probably seen it. Is the European Interoperability Framework, which I think many European countries sort of have as a baseline in describing interoperability. Several different layers, and the one that we're considering being active in is the semantic interoperability. So we're not claiming to be technical, and we shouldn't do things with IT, to be honest. That's not our strength. but we are good at semantic interoperability. And what that means is that we have the responsibility of managing, distributing, updating the semantical standards, so all the classifications, code systems, and the terminologies, including SNOMED CT. We also provide frameworks, guidelines, and we have actually legislated at a certain level. So the legislation basically refers to what you should include and what you should base your healthcare data on, but it's not that we're running after people finding them if they don't. But SNOMED CT, along with other standards, are described in the law, which is done by us. But that's the layer. And then we have other authorities out of those 300 that are more focused on technical, but then especially we have the regions and the municipalities who are doing the other bits. So we don't implement, like Erica said before, we're quite far away from implementing, and we don't have that skill set within the national board. We're informaticians, we're terminologists, we have a lot of legal people, but we're not that clinical. The Release Center, just to give you an idea of what we do with SNOMED, we have, of course, regular updates to the content. We receive input from the real world of what needs to be adjusted, added, etc. We have biannual releases, so not monthly at this point. We're, of course, using the web browser. We have some level of user support, mainly around the terminology, not the implementation of it. But we have user group meetings that we have on a monthly basis. There's some implementation support, happily with the assistance of SNOMED International, where we've had some very successful webinars, for example, trying to at least explain and show use cases of implementation. We are managed service users, so some of you know what that means, but we get our IT services from SNOMED International. And then in addition to that, we get national commissions. So you saw the ministry going down. So on an annual basis, they tell us basically what to focus on for the next year. So we get, right now, we have a big commission around social services that we're supposed to build a new registry that's based on information models and terminology. So that is our focus, separate to the normal governance and the NRC business. We have other tasks that we need to take into account with our resources that we have.
Okay, so going back to the regions, because there being 21 regions obviously mean there's a lot of need for collaboration and cooperation between them. I'm going to talk a little bit about the framework where we work together with informatics and health data standardization. We call it the National System for Knowledge-Driven Management within Swedish Healthcare. Mouthful in English, also in Swedish, but all the regions have signed up to join in this, putting staff, resources, money into the system. The main focus is to provide better knowledge-based management of healthcare. So we're working to use the best available knowledge to follow up patient encounters based on the knowledge that we used in the meetings, put new knowledge into practice quickly, and also identify areas for improvement with the patient. To run this whole system, there are lots of groups. There's a big organization with a lot of national program groups, which are sort of clinical program groups, really, in how many? 26 different diagnosis areas. We have collaboration groups working across the program groups in areas, for example, health informatics, that you can't really put into one clinical group. And then there are also national working groups. And now I mentioned my point of this because, oh, that's interesting, very yellow. My point is, since the regions set up this whole framework and system for knowledge-based management, knowledge-driven management, we've also added the informatics perspective to try and make the knowledge supports more informatically worked through in a way, and also to make the follow-up and analysis more automatically done and more quality-proofed, sort of. So let's go to the next one, the National Collaboration Group for Structured Healthcare Data. This has been a big need since we both mentioned responsibility is shared between different levels and different organizations in Sweden, and the regions needed a joint community, a joint forum to discuss these things, to make shared decisions and to drive shared issues forward. So this collaboration group was put together. They do have a sort of mandate to push common ideas out, and also the responsibility to make them happen in their own organizations. So it's quite a big thing. We also have a not so unimportant point of establishing cooperation with the national government agency. For example, the one that Anna is working for, and which is the whole point of this presentation today. We're also doing some informatics works where we're creating, developing information specifications that can be used by all regions and not just by separate regions. And for those, we set national working groups. There is one working group specifying on the use of SNOMED CT, which we're very proud of, actually. So this SNOMED CT working group, they walk out and work with the clinical program groups to help them with their SNOMED CT use in their work. So it's quite interesting. It's also a really big organization, which I'm sure you can understand. 21 organizations joining hands and hearts and resources. I heard somewhere that there are 3,000 people involved in the system on some level. So that's quite a lot of people. That's quite a force to drive knowledge-based management forward, as well as informatics. So that's the organization. Yeah. Since health data is standardization is a part of health care, this is also a shared responsibility. And we have had some confusion as to who's actually the driver when it comes to the health data area in Sweden, since everybody has their own plans, priorities, organizations, financing, and we need to come together more. So this is basically how it's been for the last few years. There's currently no national strategy explicitly mentioning SNOMED CT. But the NRC is now working on a roadmap to see where they want to go with SNOMED CT. Currently, there are some regional strategies and policies to use SNOMED CT. Everybody wants to do it, but not everybody knows exactly how, which is a bit of an issue. So we need to work together with the NRC in that matter. So there's a joint policy decision among the regions that they want to use and will use SNOMED CT, but there's not an action plan that comes with it, which makes it a little bit, I wouldn't say problematic, but theoretical in a way. So this is where we're at. And do you want to continue?
Yep. And I think for those of you who listened to the lightning session before, one thing that's interesting is that there are actually some regions that on a high level, on a management level, have made decisions that SNOMED is going to be a preferred terminology, and that has helped a little bit in also moving these things forward, just an add-on. So about 3 years ago, we concluded that we are not aligned. The work that we're doing, the prioritization of resources, et cetera, that was a challenge because we didn't have the same priorities. We wanted to work on different things. And like most, at least a governmental organization or a big organizations, you do a work plan for a year. So in this time of year, we're going home to make it again. For next year, we're planning the next year. We're planning on what we're going to prioritize, what are we going to do. We have at least some understanding of what the national commissions are, so what are the add-ons from the ministry next year at the national board. And the regional, the knowledge management organization, they do their same sort of collaborative work plan planning for the next upcoming years. I do think that you're actually looking at a 2-year work plan moving forward, but that was not the case when we started this. So it was an annual thing where you jointly as a group, we at the national board look at what are we going to do next year? When are we going to do them? How many resources? Like everyone else. So we did those separately. We had ours. Eric and the group had theirs. There's also the funding. We have some stability in the funding, but political organizations, it's national government, they can be locked down anytime and day. So there's still a little bit of movement. So even though you have an idea of what the resources you have, that can shift. So that also influences this bit of work. And then we realized that we have huge dependencies if we want to reach success. The regions and their joint organization, they're dependent on getting the responses from the NRC, from the national board. They need things from us. But in the same way, we need things from them. We don't have a lot of clinicians. We don't have a lot of people that knows the real needs. So we need to have that collaboration. We need resources, input to actually do a good job and have something that's needed and something that will give results. So we have this dependency between each other, but we were struggling a little bit in being available for each other if that makes sense. And there are organizational differences. Some are more political than others. Some are very bureaucratic, government. But that makes a difference as well. So we had all these needs and we were discussing, so what are we going to do to overcome those needs? Because if we want to progress, we've had SNOMED since ages. I mean, you've seen us, we've been here forever. But we were still struggling. We had some implementations, we have some ways, both nationally and locally, where we're progressing, but that big strategy, that real movement towards interoperability, making use of SNOMED, it's not like we're not structured. It's not like we're not interoperable in some senses, but we need more, like we all do. So we sat down, first, small group. It was not on the SNOMED level, but it was on the structured, what did you call that? National Collaboration Group for Structured Health Data. Perfect. And the National Board of Health, which was then the unit of eHealth and interoperability. So what we did was that we concluded that we have some general principles of how we're going to collaborate. So for example, we decided on an annual basis, we're going to look through our work plans before we put them into stone. So we're going to do our prep work individually, and then we're going to meet up. We're going to talk about each other's priorities. What are your focus areas? What are our focus areas? Are there matches? Are there conflicts? How can we align them in a better way so that our needs and their needs are better, provided for, I guess, for the upcoming year? We also talked about monthly meetings, just doing touch bases. How are we moving forward? So a lot of those general principles, more about ways of working and the process of working together in a more formal way, I guess, which was very important because we didn't have that from before. And then we sat down and we did principles for requesting support, which is what we call it. So literally there, 8 pages of use case-based principles. So basically, a region has a need, what are going to do about it? They think they need the support of the National Board of Health. And then we basically play it out. Then you first need to talk to the group of regions to see, are there anyone else needing those things? Or is it just you? And then if it's more than one, then they collaboratively go to the National Board to request support or assistance. Same way with us. If we have an area which we're working on, say malnutrition, then we're going to go to this joint group and say, we need efforts, we need help, we need resources or knowledge at least to understand the actual need and what we're going to do about it. And they collaboratively can respond back to us, whether or not it's okay or not, we'll see. But at least we have a process and some principles that all need to follow. And we didn't have that before. It was sort of like turning out fires. Someone called an individual because they thought they needed help, and that's not necessarily the right person to ask. So we needed to structure the work that we're doing so that we can follow it and make it more of a processed matter. And then we did, like I said, one way in. So we became a little bit more tough on, no, we do not call the region X. We do actually call the collaborating organization so that this is a request to all of them and not to a single region. And the same goes to the National Board. We do not call Lotti. We actually make a request to a more centralized function. And that has made the process easier. It's made it more visible. So we actually see what comes in and what comes out in a better way. This might sound like a necessity and that's something that everyone does, but we didn't. It was less structured than that. And now we have a structure, which is a good thing. So that's basically the principles. If anyone wants to see them, go ahead, but very local use cases, basically. And point in that is it's not just SNOMED, it's also the classifications, our information model, so both of the responsibilities of those groups that we have with the organizations. So how did it go?
How did it go? Sorry. Well, as you've already mentioned, Anna, we do follow these principles. We do bring up this 8 pages long document to see, what did we say again? So that's one way. We do work more systematically and sort of process-based than we did. So that's perfect. We think that this might be more efficient. We've also come to a point now, 2 years in, we look at those 8 pages, go like, why did we think we needed this? And so we need to review them a bit probably in the near future. And then, but that's one thing. But we think this has sort of a higher, higher level of how did it go here? Because this whole work that we put in, the process to creating them, but also starting to follow them, has sort of created an awareness between the two organizations of what possibilities we both have and what challenges we have regarding resources and priorities. We always have limitations, but they're different ones, so we might not always understand each other. But in this case, we're aware of them in a better way, so we can actually start talking to each other in a different way. So these are kind of soft goals, but still quite pleased with them. One thing that we noticed in our very decentralized organization of 21 regions is that this document, or the way that we started working with the national board, has actually among management levels given us quite a lot of appreciation and trust, because they see that we try to work in as a systematic way as we can. Everyone is struggling with their collaborations, regional to governmental levels, always. We try to do something about it, so others are actually looking at us now going like, we want that, we should do that. So maybe we set some sort of a model for how to collaborate between different organizations here. Also, there is an understanding, and it comes back to the planning and the prioritization between our organizations. We really need to perhaps not do all of that together, because it's not possible, because we do have different organizations behind us or that we're working for. But we do need to understand that we need to do something together. If we can't agree on the roadmap, on the plans and what to prioritize ahead, then we probably won't agree on anything further way down the line, because then we'll be working on different things with different sort of ideas of what's most important and what needs to be done. So I think that's quite an important, if not the most important takeaway from this that we've learned. And that's our
Yeah, I was just
going
to add on a more practical note. So through the last 2 years then, as these principles have been enforced, we've received or we've concluded bigger projects that we're actually doing together, which was easier to define and easier to move forward within at least our organization to get approval for and actually be able to put resources on it, because they were so explicitly described by the regions. The need was very clear, what we were supposed to do, and the fact that it's a joint effort. We're both collaborating with resources. So that made it easier for us on our bureaucratic government level to have that move forward and being put as a priority. So not only that we match our work plans for the year when there's something coming up outside of the work plan, we still have a better way of moving forward to be able to do those things, because there is that full set of information available, and it clearly shows both the needs and the resources put into it. So we believe, at least, that we've had some successful cases where unlocking, like our title said, we believe we've moved forward faster with implementation with SNOMED because we have these priorities and these principles. So we look forward continuing working like this, because we do think that doing it together is going to make it faster when it comes to actually reaching implementation. Yeah. Ta-da!
Thank you, Erica and Anna. Are there any questions to start us off in the room? Yeah. Is this one working? Is this working?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know one of the questions that I'm from Norway, and I'm in the NRC in Norway, Alfistoke. So, and I know one of the questions is that in Sweden, you planned and you actually did translate the whole of the SNOMED. And could you just tell us a little bit why did that, and could that be an example for people or not? Or yes.
Okay, so you want the real story? No. Well, we were we were part of the inaugural, I mean, the first countries joining Snowman International and then ITSIDU. So we didn't really know better, to be very honest. I mean, it was us in Denmark, and we thought that that was definitely what was needed. And so there, we didn't see any options of not doing the whole translation. Now it's been a couple of years, and we've been part of the translation user group and working. But end of the day, I believe, and Erica, you're sitting in the back, the head of our government, of our NRC, so please comment if I'm saying something stupid. But I do actually think that we're quite happy that we did translate all of it, because it's so easy to keep it up to speed, because every time there is a new release, we just translate it and put it in. It's maybe a couple of hundred, couple of thousand, but it's not a big deal. So it's a shorter time to reach implementation because we already have them translated than looking at the use case and then having to go through translation, because translation takes time. It needs to be quality assured. It needs to go all through quite a number of steps. But we already have had those steps. We might need to adjust some of the concepts because they were incorrect when they were translated in 2007. But at least we have a starting point. So we believe that having all of it available is shortening the road towards implementation. So I don't think that we would have done it differently. And we also had the money, to be honest. I mean, the ministry said, let's do this. So we had a 4-year project time, quite a number of crowns. So we had the availability of actually going through a full translation. So yeah, I hope that's an answer. Anything wrong, Erica? No? Good, thanks.
Yes, Mikael Nyström, working for the EHR company that showed that are present in quite many regions there. And I can also comment on the translation issue that one of our bigger problems when we try to implement Snowman City is when we miss concepts. We have actually several projects that we are not using Snowman City within just because we know that there will be lacking of concepts. If we also have had the problems that we don't have translations to the concepts we would need to use, that had been an even greater showstopper for us to use Snowman City in the projects, because due to legislation, all EHR notes in Sweden must be in Swedish, with some very few exceptions. So we can't really go live without having a Swedish term to each concept we use.
Thank you, Mikael. I'm just going to add something that, I agree with everything that's been said about having translation available. But now, as the regions are moving on, implementing Snowman CT more and more, there's a need to look at those terms or descriptions that are in Snowmed. I know that there's a need among the regions to add what we can call patient-friendly terms more, or a need. I don't know if it's a need, but at least it's a wish. And there's also a wish to add or change what's there to more, can I call it staff-friendly terms? Because we translated the preferred term, and it's according to some translation rules and everything, and it was really good, but it's not always good enough to put on a screen in an EHR system. So that's a discussion we need to have. We need a Swedish, but we might need a Swedish with a twist, sort of. So we'll see if we get there.
Thank you, Anna and Erica. Oh, wrong way around.